We are poets. We dress up our words and put diamonds at the edge of sentences, not periods. We easily erasing lyrical boundaries, ruthlessly ripping and running with our tongues that speak quick, slick talk through lips that ain't afraid to preach the truth. Our words so vividly vivid, imagery, creating mosaics clear enough for the blind to see. Our words grab souls, mind control. I can knock you off your feet with words so mighty as I uplift you lightly, elevating your mind, feeding your spirit, taking you higher and higher. See, I ain't the average kind. I aim to inspire and aspire to be the best as I invoke change and rearrange the English diction. Speaking stanzas splendidly to put a single tingle in your spine. I come from greatness, honoring all that is divine. I bring you peace with words that rain down in thunder, full of wonder. I sow the seed of poetry to express the hidden me and give voice to my sisters all over who lack equality. So open up your third eye, listen to this wisdom, try and feel it in your system. We are poets, and this is what we're into.
Last Tuesday, I noticed 30 kids loitering around the Schuylkill River. Gina was one of them. This would not normally be an issue, but this was Philadelphia, with its flash mob sensationalism and its curfews and its downtown malls that close every afternoon to people under 18, with its continual cycle of budget cuts and bad news about kids. Here were 30 of them, without adult supervision, lounging on the grass, applauding, shouting, chanting, and snapping, reading poetry. Think Dead Poet Society, but with young people of all skin shades and economic backgrounds. Some students were from a magnet school, some had gotten on a train from North Philly, and one had walked over from the charter school down the block. I stayed away for a while, kept myself at a distance to watch people watching them. There were more than a few near misses as a stream of startled joggers and bicyclists fought to stay in their lanes every time this group of youngsters broke into applause. Some slowed down to look, some smiled, and I was so happy because these were all my kids. Two of my poetry teams in the Philly Youth Poetry Movement's Slam League. Greg Corbin, a good friend of mine, created the Philly Youth Poetry Movement back in 2006. He wanted there to be a place where young people could discover the power of their voices while getting involved in community service. Every month, he set up a poetry slam competition for those who have never seen a slam. Lose your idea of smoky coffee shops and berets and ironic mustaches and bongo drums. This is more of Vagina Monologues meets 8 Mile meets that awesome 10th grade history class you never wanted to leave. A poet performs or spits, the audience reacts, and 5 judges hold up numbers from 1 to 10. The top poets advance until there is a winner. Many people supposedly fear public speaking more than death. Right now, I am petrified. I have been a prolific stutterer for as long as I can remember, and I'm hoping that all of you can't see me celebrating every completed sentence. And that's with none of you holding up scores. But yet, at each of the slams, the limited performance slots move like Eagles season tickets. They're gone in under a minute. Some of the kids read haltingly off of paper. Some of them launch into elaborate character pieces. Some are funny. Some will bring you to tears. Our slams have their own vocabulary. If you like something, you snap. You really like something, you shout. You see someone who needs help gutting out an emotional performance, you hold out both palms to them, steadying them, and at the end, regardless of the scores, you always clap as if it was you on stage. It's an encouraging sight. But I wondered if it was replicable. A few teacher friends and I started asking, what if every school in the city had a slam poetry team, just like basketball and football? Wouldn't that change the city? We started dreaming of sold-out arenas, pep rallies, people wearing their school colors. We started asking ourselves, what if every disaffected, lonesome, excitable, beautiful, crazy student had a mic in front of their faces? An audience to listen to them, and 3 uncensored minutes. We were so curious that we went ahead and did it. Last year, my principal at Chris Lehman at Science Leadership Academy was kind enough to let us use our school's tiny black box drama studio. I asked a few kids from our program to go back to their schools and share their dream, and they jumped all over it. Teachers at 6 schools were so excited that they volunteered to coach teams. So the first Friday of last spring, We set up every plastic chair we could find. I borrowed a microphone. We found some markers for our judges, and we gave a room full of kids there 3 minutes. We learned lessons. First, that in the attempt to shock us, many kids will shock themselves. Our first-timers rarely approach the mic looking to channel their inner Frederick Douglass and stir up revolutions with their oratory. They have different priorities. Some of them are wounded, in poverty, with shattered families and trouble in school. More than a few don't know where they're going to be in 10 years, or 5 years, or tomorrow. And so when they get an audience and a silence into which they get to pour their stories, a lot of them will try their hardest to make you flinch. They'll tell tales that you are not ready to hear. They'll use language that lands against your gut like fists, all this while sneaking glances at you that say, "This is me. Is that okay?" If in this moment you come through for them, smile something that looks like a yes. The confidence that is infused pushes the poet from catharsis to advocacy or teaching. And now we have preachers and philosophers, and they are appreciated. Their peers thank them for validating their own hidden experiences. No lie, there can be a stampede to the wings of the stage, young people fighting to be first in line to celebrate the story that was just told. Which leads to number 2, the value of fluid conversation. If we give a kid 3 uncensored minutes, they'll tell us directly what so many of us spend thousands of grad school dollars trying to figure out. I mentioned flash mobs earlier. Many of us have wondered what draws these kids in such numbers to Love Park, the Gallery, Liberty Place. What are they thinking? Some of them are clearly followers drawn by social media to the party, but what about those others? Those crashing through store windows like the Arab Spring, what about them? One of our poets has this piece where he embodies a character in order to answer these questions. That character says, "I'm surviving the best way I know how, by destroying everything around me. Just look where you found me." Later he adds, "We cope through chaos, find therapy in terrorizing theatrics. Our knuckles embrace the flaws of others. We have the manners of misguided masculinity. We believe that real men hug through their hurt, that sharing is caring, that pulling a trigger and sharing a bullet for our brothers next to our brothers is supposed to give us the same joy as the Christmas mornings we never got." America, the next time you lay your head down for a sweet lullaby, I want you to feel a South Street riot in your stomach, a Germantown store raid in your veins, a downtown stampede in your mind stream. I just want you to remember me. Now, this is a thoughtful examination of a complex problem. This is the challenge to find a multifaceted solution. This is what we say we want from our nation's leaders, and this is a 17-year-old. Malcolm X warned us to avoid speaking about people before speaking with them. He knew relationships to be the lifeblood of any movement, of any collective growth, and that we could not relate until language, in all of its beautiful and ugly complexity, flowed freely in all directions. Our poetry community has a beautiful, gorgeous verb for this. It is not uncommon for one poet to approach another and say, "Let's build. Let me build with you." The kids might then be thinking, "I know you're from Plymouth Whitemarsh, and I'm from Overbrook. I know you're white, and I'm black. But we both like poetry and solutions. We both remember jungle gyms and Pokemon. Let's create a piece someday that make this crowd burst into a storm of snaps." This camaraderie must be our biggest selling point. In the past year, the Slam League has grown from 6 to 16 schools. Half the teams are run by students for students. We have a beautiful space at the Franklin Institute, and we encourage each of you to participate this Friday afternoon at 4:30. As we welcome Gina back up for one more performance, do me a favor. Imagine her 1,000-fold. See the strength of such a generation. Have faith in them. Meet as many of their eyes as you can. Tell them that it is their turn to speak, and that you are delighted to sit back and listen. Thank you.
I see you, Sitting in class with your hands slightly raised, your eyes hold questions. The insecurities within them compete with the brightness of a smiling face. The color of brown sugar, sprinkled with perspiration as sweat cascades across your forehead, kissing you nervous. You're unsure if your peers will accept you. Will they mistake your kindness for weakness, take your hesitance for reading aloud as meekness when ideas are shooting like fireworks inside of your brain? You possess a mind full of brilliance that cannot be contained, but you also wear your fears like chains. They restrict you from speaking up. When you knew the answer to that complex question where x is divided by the square root of infinity cubed that left everyone guessing but you silently swallowed your doubts, holding the bitter taste in your mouth as it rolls on your tongue to your teeth through words that wish to come out. You're not sure if this is the right place to voice your opinion because oftentimes in our communities, voices remain silent while guns and news reporters do the talking. Young kids are taught to live by the code of stop snitching that robs them of a voice, leaving them muted against the music of injustice's cacophony of chaotic confusion. It's hard for a student to feel secure in a classroom when they don't even feel safe at home, but there is a solution. 3 things I like to tell those who ask, how can they encourage students to be greater in schools? 1, make students feel valued. I know teachers who resemble magicians with patient ears and open hearts. Their words soothe souls, calm fears, and inspire students to believe that their voice is as valuable as every speck of oxygen that floats in the air. The magic they possess is that in valuing students' voices, they in turn inspire students to value themselves, which relates to my second point, that is, let students' voices be heard. Being a teenager is hard enough with hormones waging wars in your body. Your self-esteem seems to be on a constant roller coaster, and suddenly, what your peers think about you becomes the most important thing. Yet having an open stage, classroom, or stage where you have the space to have freedom of expression is like handing students an opportunity to be creative, to create bigger dreams and realities than they've ever expected before, using the power of their voice to envision new things. And 3, push students to succeed past their expectations. If they're comfortable within their limitations, how can they expect to succeed past the achievements made by the previous generation? Push them beyond their boundaries, and maybe one day they'll have the pleasure of a pleasant surprise of being somewhere they never thought they'd be. Like only being a high school student, yet being on a stage presenting at a TED Talk like me. Schools are supposed to be houses of education, creativity, and inspiration. Yet until students feel that their voices are valued and that it's okay to express themselves, there will be millions of students sitting in classes with their hands slightly raised, waiting for the moment that they can be great. Thank you.